Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome back. Appreciate you taking some time at the start of your week or at the end of your week if you waited till Friday to listen or watch, whatever day you're consuming the episode. We appreciate you being here, maximizing your Monday, whatever day you choose to maximize. We are open to any day being maximized here on the show here. But Ashley and I have returned, and we have a new guest with us. Natalie has taken some time out of her busy day and week to sit and chat with us a little bit about her transition from the classroom into a role in the training space. So, Natalie, welcome, and thank you so much for agreeing to join and tell a little bit about your story here.
Hello. Yes, so happy to be here.
Awesome, awesome. And so, Ashley introduced me to you, and you left the classroom about a year ago now, transitioned into the training space, and have been able to find some success in that field. And before we started, we talked about your search, your journey, and how it was one that came a little quicker for you than some others may go through. So, always like to just kind of start off with the mindset for you when it came time, making that move from the classroom to your new role. And now that you've been in that new role for some time, reflecting on that, what would you say were some of the most refreshing things about the change, and what ultimately led you to make the decision to pursue something new and be where you are now?
I was in the classroom for 19 years and I taught anywhere from pre-K all the way through senior in high school. And so I've taught every grade level. I've taught most subjects. So I've been in like elementary space, I taught life skills. I taught all of the core subjects. And then I moved to middle school and I was doing a special ed job there. And then I moved to high school where I transitioned into career technical education and I was doing culinary. And I'd kind of done everything. And I felt that in education that I could do. The only thing that I was lacking is being a principal. And
Mhm.
that was did not sound interesting to me.
Yeah.
And so I really thought, like, what do I have? I don't want to do this anymore. I was really stuck and
Mhm.
sad. And as if you ask any of my friends and family, they would all tell you that I was just completely depressed. And so I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know how to transition. I didn't even know like what that even would look like.
Right.
But then I really just, I'm a Christian. And so I leaned into God and I leaned into a lot of my community at church. And so I just didn't know what to do. And I just felt very lost. And
Mhm.
so in that whole journey, it was just leaning into God, looking around at jobs and thinking, I can't do any of those. Like, I'm just a teacher. And so that transition from thinking I'm just a teacher to I'm actually this wonderful person that God made, and I am everything He wanted me to be and made me to be. And I have to stop thinking I'm just something, that
Mhm.
I am who God made me to be. And so when I started like changing my brain and changing my thoughts, that's when I felt okay, I could transition out of the classroom and move into a new role.
And when you did that, were you kind of looking in specific areas? Because Ashley and I have talked about this before. Sometimes, the people transitioning from education narrow their opportunities because they see, learning or education in the job title, and that's really all they look for. And not that training is too far-fetched from, what you do as an educator, but, how did you eventually land on seeking opportunities in that space as opposed to boxing yourself into what was out there?
So I actually I'm a pretty big optimist. And so I was like, I can do everything. And so I started looking at job descriptions and going, oh, maybe I can't do that. Oh, what does that mean? And so I really reached out to a lot of people who had jobs like in the corporate space. And I said, okay, like these are all the things that I know how to do. What does that look like? And so then they really came alongside me and were like, you could go into project management. You could just go be an administrative assistant. You love to go like I love to cook. I love to do parties. I love to do events. So I could go into that space. And so I just started looking everywhere.
Mhm.
Like where could I possibly get a job? Yeah. So I try not to narrow myself to training. I love to teach people things, and so that's just a joy. I think most teachers love to do that, but
Mhm.
there's so many other things that you can do that aren't just teaching a subject or training. Like you teach in a lot of different things. So that's kind of what I looked for.
Awesome.
Hey, so a lot of individuals who transition out of education struggle with the concept of imposter syndrome, both during the interview process as well during the first initial few months in their new position. Was this something that you had to deal with both in the classroom and in your new role? And what helped you overcome the self-doubt that may have crept in? And how did you go through the process of overcoming that hurdle to leave the classroom and learn something new?
Oh, Ashley, that is such a great question. I still, after a year, so I just had a year in my new role, and I still have a little bit of that. My role is very interesting. So I started out in training, and now I've transitioned into change management and transition. Like I'm kind of like I do everything for our department person. And so I still have those feelings of imposter syndrome. Like, I'm not good enough. I can't do that. I'm just a teacher. And it took me a good, probably the first 6 months of my new role to not introduce myself as Natalie. I used to be a teacher. Like, no one cares that you used to be a teacher. I promise you, no one cares. But what they do care about is like if you have work ethic, if you're going to
Yeah.
do your job, and if you're going to show up. And so I had to like reframe my language and my brain and how I spoke to make myself feel like not an imposter anymore. I still have those moments because I just, we're all self conscious and have those problems. But really, like telling yourself every day, I am blank. So coming up with like 10 things that you are, that is not just that label of a teacher, but I am a woman, I am a mom, I work in corporate America. I like all of these different things, and it just depends on the day of what I'm saying to myself. And so that's really what's helped me the most. But yes, I struggled with that very badly.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's one of those things that just sticks around regardless of your situation. I mean, I've been in recruiting for almost 10 years now, and I'm still at times like going back to like, uh-oh, what, how do I do this? So what am I supposed to do in this situation? So yeah, always learning, always evolving is certainly.
Mhm.
And as Ashley can attest, one of the main things that we discuss on this show when it comes to overseeing the transition into the new career is that aspect of transferable skills. And I think that's what a lot of educators get hung up on. I've done this in the classroom. How does that translate to what I'm going to do in corporate America or in a different position? And so now that you've been working in training for a bit, you've grown in that field. What would you say are some of the skills that you're using that you developed in the classroom that didn't really jump out at you at first of like, I'm going to have to do this in my new role, and I've done this amount of time in the classroom already. Some of the surprising skills that you had that you didn't really think about as you stepped into it.
Just knowing how to sequence things. Like as educators, we sequence our whole day. So we make sure the children know how to do X before they know how to do Y, before they know how to do Z. And so sequencing and understanding how to frame that and be like just I don't know if it's like a list of things to do, but like very sequential. Many tasks or many jobs are sequential. And also I didn't realize like how many things I did in education. So as a career technical education teacher, I wrote like processes for our district. I wrote curriculum. I did all of our finances. I did our budgeting. I did all of those things like buying, and all of those are transferable skills. You know how to get a PO, you know how to go and use a vendor and how to just talk to vendors. And so all of those skills I didn't realize were going to be so beneficial in my role now. Pretty much everything that I've learned over my teaching journey has helped me, but also I, as an educator, love to learn. And so that eagerness and that hunger to learn is huge. Every boss really wants you to be willing to do what you can to get things done. And I truly believe that's what educators do. Like we built this classroom on zero budget and we figured it out. Well, in corporate America, you have a larger budget, but they still want you to like work with the least amount or the less. And so I've learned I can use those skills of minimizing like the cost of things because I know how to resource and work with nothing. So I think those skills have all helped.
All right, I would say the same. A lot of the skills that I have built over the years when I was in education, I didn't know how well they transfer until I got in the position. And I'm hoping someone will hear this and just believe in themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and just know I can do it. I thought it was going to be hard in this position, but it comes natural. I'm not going to say it's easy. It just comes very natural because of the prior skills that I had going into this position. But on the other side of that, what would you say are some of the skills you found you needed to develop so far? A lot of transitioning educators choose learning and design just because there's a concept of it being a smoother process to move their skills from the classroom into a corporate or any other type of setting, but they want to share some insight on how you were able to add those skills to your strengths.
Um, let's see. What are some skills I needed? I have to say, as educators, we tend to not be as professional in our speech and our communication because we deal with children all day. And so it's a different level of communication and professionalism
Mhm.
that I am learning it. Maybe I'm learning it quickly in my I feel like I'm learning it very slow. Like I use AI all the time just to like make sure I'm communicating in a professional, like a different level of professional. Like education, we just speak to each other frankly. And there's not a high level of professionalism in our communication. So that's one thing that I've really struggled with. I've leaned on my tools because I think as an educator, we learn how, excuse me, how to use our tools and we will look for any way to use tools. And so, I've leaned on those and I've learned a lot. So anytime that I can watch a webinar, anytime that I can sign up for a training, anytime that I can learn something new or just sit in a meeting and zip my lip and listen, I take full advantage. I tell people all the time, just invite me to the meeting. I just want to listen just because I want to gain more information. I also like it. I'm on like my brain overload for the last year of just learning all that I can learn about like corporate America and the new role and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. So Ashley and I talk about networking quite a bit, and it's one of the things that we kind of really hammer in, and especially when you're transitioning into a new space, how important it is to rely on your network. And you mentioned that you leaned on your local community and your church and your faith as part of that as well. So, now that you have transitioned into this new space, how has your network grown? And looking back on, when you first decided to take those steps out of the classroom, what advice would you share to your past self about building your network, strengthening your connections, just overall utilizing the support system you had in place during your search?
As a teacher, we don't really network. Like we know each other like from if we go to conferences or in district, inter-district stuff like that. But that is probably something that I would have done differently. I probably would have signed up for a LinkedIn like 15 years ago, whenever it started, or 10 years, whenever it started, 10 years ago, I don't know. I would have signed up for that. And I probably would have kept my resume up. Um, and I love people. Like I am a people person. I'm sure Ashley could attest to that. I just love people and I go anywhere I go, I want to meet you. I want to introduce myself. I want to talk to you. And so I never really used that or thought of that as a valuable skill.
Hmm.
Um, it got to a point where I got like so negative to myself that I thought, gosh, if I could just stop talking and I could just stop like meeting people, then that would just make life so much easier. But that is not true. Um, meeting people and learning about their lives and seeing what they do can resonate, or you can not use them, that's the wrong word, but leverage their knowledge later. I've been so blessed by so many people that I have called during that transition, or this transition. I guess I'm still kind of in it, but um just telling me like, hey, tell me a little bit about what you do. What does that look like? What is it? What is the day in the life of your job? Because I don't know. I mean, I was an educator for 19 years. I had no idea what any job was or
Hmm.
like what they did. My dad was a salesman. He owned his own voting machine company. Like he sold voting machines. So I saw that space kind of growing up. But other than that, like me and my husband were both educators
Yeah.
and are educators. So I didn't know what anybody else did. And I didn't know what that looked like. And so having them like draw a word picture of that was huge for me. And
Mhm.
I think being able, like now everyone knows, like, oh, Natalie was looking for a job. And so they would, kind of ask other people, like, hey, are you have any openings and things like that. And then I would get job just sent to me, like job
Oh,
descriptions and offers sent to me of, hey, you might want to apply for this. I think it'd be really good. When other people are looking for a job for you, it is a heck of a lot easier when you're just looking by yourself.
yeah. Absolutely. And good point with LinkedIn. I think I've told Ashley this in the past too. Like I was still in the classroom when LinkedIn was starting out and I was getting invites from friends from like college and I was like, more social media, no thanks. And I didn't
Yeah.
really join until I was like past looking for a job and it was like, all right, now I need to catch up. And so
Yes.
10 years have been a growing process for me in terms of how I can utilize this. And it's like, I feel like life would have been a lot easier for me in that search if
Mhm.
I had like just randomly seen that invite from a college friend and been like, all right, sure, yeah, I'll sign up. Like, how
Yeah.
different would that search have been for me?
Yeah, absolutely. I think LinkedIn, like we think I think as educators we think Facebook, Instagram,
Yeah.
but as professionals you need to think LinkedIn. And it's not a social media. I mean, it's not really supposed to be. It's really supposed to be like networking and seeing like what other people are doing and maybe how you can leverage their skills or just ask them questions and learn from them.
Yeah.
I think to a segue into that would be I think as educators, we are in a bubble. And we also don't know what's out there and how we can maximize our skills. However, um, when you're in education, I don't know if it's so easy to find another job. In my brain, I feel like I didn't need LinkedIn
Yeah.
because you just find the nearest district, or usually they're hiring, and you just complete the application and you'll get a call back, or you go to a job fair. There we go. And
Hmm.
with having prior, you know, work experience is much easier to get a teaching job. So I think that's why I had no, I guess will to get a LinkedIn. I was like, it's
Hmm.
teaching, you know. I
Yeah.
think it is for a more corporate space
Hmm.
and type of other work environments that it is very useful. I did notice my district I worked for just started their LinkedIn like a year ago, and they're active on there, and that goes to attest that I think it is for every
Hmm.
professional. I just think it's not super beneficial for
Hmm.
education. There we go.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that.
Well, here we are at our last question. And this is a question that we ask about all of our guests. So you've already shared a lot of insight and advice to this point, but we always like to have everyone that joined the show share a piece of advice that they found was most beneficial for them throughout their job search process or in the process of getting acclimated to your new role.
Oh man. Okay. My husband is extremely bright and I just adore his advice. And when we were talking about the imposter syndrome, I really, really struggled. I have struggled my whole life with just not feeling like that I was good enough to do many things. And so That's probably why I didn't leave the classroom earlier, is because I was like, well, I'm just a teacher. I'm not good enough. I can't do anything else. And my husband would just sit me down and just tell me the truth. Like, you are smart. You are capable. You can do this. And so having that person in your corner to just cheer you on and to be your biggest cheerleader, I believe everybody needs that. If it's a friend, if it's a family member, if it's a husband, I just I don't think I could have done this without him. Like his support and his just breathing belief into me. I also have many friends that did the exact same thing, that were just like, Natalie, you are good enough and you can do this. And my boss that I have now, he's very good at telling me, like, good job. That was awesome. So proud of you. And in education, we don't get that. And so it was very weird for me, because then I'd come home and I'd be like, do you think he really means that? Yes, he really means it. If he didn't mean it, he wouldn't say it. And so that was really hard for me. And so I do think the imposter syndrome really does come into education and into educators.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart that we have those feelings. But I have so many like old coworkers that are still educators that they say to me, there's no way I could do what you do. I don't know how you did it. It's because you're so outgoing that you got a job. No, it's because I took a step of faith and I relied on everything that God has created me to be. I relied on the people around me to help me just go through that journey. And so you have to have a good support system. And that's probably my biggest piece of advice. And if you don't have that support system, call me, I'll be your support system. Like, I think everybody needs a cheerleader in their corner. And, we don't need to be that. What's that analogy of like the lobster or the crabs, and they just keep bringing them down, and that one crab gets out and like, then they're just lost all by themselves. It's like, we're not crabs. We need to be a support system to lift people up. And so, anyway.
Awesome. Well, Natalie, thank you again for taking the time to join us and share about your journey and how you've moved into this new role and found success. And so, for the people that are listening, where can they find you, connect with you, ask you questions about your path if they have anything specific that they would like to learn about your new role or how you got into it?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, Natalie Rita Langley. That's my name. You can find me. I will friend you. Ask me any questions that you want. I am learning different from Facebook. On LinkedIn, you can accept everyone's invitation. Facebook, I don't do that. So that was a huge mind shift too.
Yeah.
So just accept everyone's invitation. And so that's the fun thing about LinkedIn, is you can just be connected. So yeah, reach out there. I'd love to help you out or answer any questions.
Mhm.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, for Ashley and I. Thank you to the listeners, viewers for checking in with us again this week. We will be back in a couple weeks to talk more about maximizing your Monday, maximizing your job search. But until then, have a great week ahead. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Bye.